The doctor would walk into the room and say, hey, Mr. Smith, good to see you. I have all the time in the world. Just tell me what your problem is. But the doctor standing there the entire time. That body language tells the patient, no, I really don't have time for you. I'm ready to get out.
Dr. Ming Wang, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We are going to be doing an interview called Focus Through the Generations. We're in a very unique time in our industry right now where we have 4 actively practicing ophthalmologists, and it's pretty unique. So we want to capture that moment of all these generations and find out what's unique about them, what's different about them, but yet what's the same. So thank you again for joining us. I'm going to ask you just to introduce yourself, Dr. Ming Wang. I'm sure everybody already knows you, but for those who may be under a rock somewhere and don't, then let's introduce you and let you tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Ming Wang, M-I-N-G-W-A-N-G. I'm a practicing ophthalmologist in Nashville, Tennessee, running the Wang Vision Institute. We specialize in LASIK surgery, in cataract surgery. My background is I'm an immigrant from mainland China, came to this country in 1982 with only $50, English-Chinese dictionary, but with a big American dream. I've been very blessed to be able to live in this country.
And this country's been very blessed to have you as well. You do a lot of good and we appreciate it so much. Dr. Wang, what do you think is the biggest problem facing our industry right now, our ophthalmic industry in this age and this time?
I think the biggest problem that we're facing as an industry, as a practicing from the perspective of practicing ophthalmologist, is that there's so many forces that drag us away from our central focus. The central focus is our responsibility to our patients. By different forces, I mean, for example, the financial forces, the cost of running a practice, the forces of need to do marketing, attract patients, the forces of malpractice, legal aspect of medicine, the forces of reduction in reimbursement from the government, and there are forces of increasing technology and the cost and attention we needed, and also the forces of increasing expectation for our patients. So I think the biggest challenge is how can we, as an ophthalmologist in the center, when surrounded by these different forces taking us away from the center, still manage to remain in the center, which is the focus on the patient. Now, I'll give one example. That with the technology become available, is increasingly the doctors are practicing a technology-based medicine rather than a human-based medicine. And for example, at Wang Vision Institute, I'm the surgeon and Dr. Joshua Franco is the surgeon, and we have 3 optometrists, Dr. David Zimmerman, Dr. Marion Johnson, and Dr. Julian Koch. And I interact with our younger doctors almost on a daily basis. The most frequent teaching point from me is always ask this question. After the young doctor present all the technologies, is that what does this patient want? What is the perception in the patient's perception, his or her problem? Are we speaking in the language of listener? Are we focusing on the most important mission in medicine? Yeah, it's making money, generating business, yes, but more important is treating a disease. But there's actually something more important than treating a disease. And most young doctors know what? Is anything could be more important than the technology and surgery to treat a disease? Yes, there's something even more important. That is, make someone happy. That manifests you actually listen to the patients, figure out at the end of the day is not what you think is most important as a surgeon, but what patient feels the most important is most important to the patient.
I 1000% agree with that. And I love this because I've heard you say it before, to become a listener. And that's one of the hardest things for all of us to do, is to become a listener. We're always thinking about the next steps, right? And the patient is just thinking about what they're saying. So becoming that listener is just, it's vital. You're brilliant in that respect. I appreciate the fact that you do that. And I know your patients appreciate it because I know some of your patients. But yeah, well, we go back a very long way, Dr. Ming Wang. We met through Dr. Mona's Craft, and I'm so appreciative of the introduction. I want to ask you something. What career would you have chosen if you did not choose ophthalmology?
Interesting question. When I grew up in China during what they call Cultural Revolution, at age 14, I was thrown out of school despite being a straight A student. And together with 20 million other high school graduates, I was going to be sent away to labor camp for life. During that 10 years of Cultural Revolution, where all universities and colleges were shut down. And so in order to escape that devastating fate of labor camp, I picked up two things to do. One is to play a music instrument, one is learning dancing. Because if I could do this, I might be able to avoid being sent away to labor camp, being allowed to stay in the cities, because communist government still needed musicians and dancers in the cities. So then the Cultural Revolution ended because dictator died, and I got a chance to come to America as basically a penniless student, but I was happy because I have the freedom in America. So because of that history, I learned the music instrument, I learned dancing. So if I have not picked a career as an ophthalmologist, I probably will pick a career as a musician, playing my Chinese violin, erhu, E-R-H-U, or I may pick a career as a professional ballroom dancing, because I love that too. Our Psy Foundation, where all the doctors, we donate our services. Once a year, we have an event called the Eyeball, raise money to help people see. And it's through the beauty of dancing to remind us that at the end of the day, it's not what we do within the four walls of clinic that is most important. What's even more important is how we can, as ophthalmologists, go out of our four walls, engage larger society to get everybody involved for the cause of helping people restore sight, especially those who need the most, especially those who don't have the financial resources to pay for it.
I love that. What's your most memorable dance partner?
Oh, I had the opportunity of dancing with a beautiful dancer from Bulgaria many years ago. Her name's Arina, and she is a blonde hair, beautiful dancer, but she has this Eastern European approach to dance, which means the dance is not just about sport, but it's also as much about artistry. And it's not just about artistry either. It's about sport, artistry, and thirdly, human connection, the emotion. And Arena really demonstrated the best combination of all three. We actually have a video on YouTube that show my dance with Arena. Then to this day, that's still one of my best dance videos.
I love it. Well, I have to ask you, because everybody's going to want to know your professional and personal relationship with Dolly Parton, who is our Tennessee beauty. She just loves you, and I love listening to the stories that she has to tell about you. But tell us a good story about Dolly.
Yeah, thank you. I performed LASIK surgery for Dolly. So one day she came in, she said, Dr. Wang, I'm not here for my eyes today. I said, okay, what are you here for? She said, I'm here for music. I want to play music with you. I said, you? The country music icon, me, an amateur musician? She said, yes. And so she took me to the Blue Ocean studio that evening. And I never seen thousands of buttons like all these consoles. And we set a little table, and she said, I wanted to sing a song, and you played that little Chinese violin for me. So the song's title is called Cruel War. And it's about the story of, in the Civil War, a soldier wants to go to war front, and his girlfriend wants to go with him. And he said, no, late girls are not admitted in the troop yet. And he wants to go, she wants to go with him. And he has to say, no, no, no. At the end of the song, say yes. So I sat down with Dolly across a little table with my Chinese violin in my hand. I listened to a recording of Dolly singing. After she finished, she said, okay, it's your turn. I said, okay, give me the score, for my Chinese violin accompaniment. She said, I have no score. I said, okay, give me your score, the song that you just sang. She said, I have no score either. She's so talented. She just sang the song based on memory. So then I realized that she invited me to play, not just play, but also actually to create together with her. And while listening to this old country, American country song, can we imagine, can she and I imagine what should be the accompaniment melody like using a 5,000 year history, culture, Chinese violin? And it's the ultimate East and West combination. So we listen, stop, and I practice my violin a little bit, try and test different melodies. And at the end of the night, we played, we composed, played, and recorded. We finished. So it's one of the ultimate experience of East and West.
I love that story. That's a story I've never heard from you. So I'm so excited I asked that question. I love it. I love it. Let me ask you a question. What, other than ballroom dancing, other than playing your Chinese violin, what else do you fill your time with when you're not being a surgeon and a doctor?
I think my dancing and music are my hobbies, but my main thing, my life is devoted on the two things. One is medicine to help people see through our Sight Foundation to help blind orphan children. But second is the cause to help all of us find common ground. Our country is so polarized, which means that we're increasingly fixated on our differences rather than appreciating what we have in common. My autobiography, From Darkness to Sight, talk about my journey as an immigrant, escaping dictatorship, came to America for freedom, and came to appreciate so much the freedom and liberty that we have. But the polarization here in America today will destroy the freedom and liberty, destroy the wonderful society we have here in America today. And we need to remind ourselves that we all have shared humanity on the spaceship Earth. We have no choice but to find a way to work together. Actually, my autobiography, From Darkness to Sight, is being made into a major motion picture called Sight Now. It's going to be shot in Vancouver, Canada in a few weeks. I'll be on the set, but I'll be probably a taxi driver or something, like Hitchcock, set in the taxi driver. But the point of the movie and my book is to remind all of us to appreciate America, to appreciate the freedom and liberty that we have. And through overcoming our polarization to find the common ground. And people say, well, why are you so motivated to help us overcome the polarization and find the common ground? That's because I have suffered myself in the past through extreme form of polarization, which is dictatorship. America, don't go there.
I love it. Dr. Ming Wang, how has social media changed your practice, changed the way that you advertise, changed the way that you solicit new patients, let them know about you? How has that evolved? Because you were back in the day with me when advertising was not, no one advertised, that was not good. People didn't go to a doctor if they had to advertise. You didn't go there. So we've evolved from newspaper ads to billboard ads to now we're in social digital media. How has that changed you in your practice and the way that you solicit new patients?
Great question, Polly. Polly, you and I have known each other for nearly 20 years, and I initially consulted you nearly 20 years ago. You were working for some of the pillars in ophthalmology, Dr. Manus Kraft and others. And we were in our teenage years, I believe, at that time. But I've learned so much from professionals such as you who have wealth experience in ophthalmology field over the past 20 years and also experience actually working in the trenches in marketing. I've come to increasingly realize that the social media, the digital media is the future, right? But one of the fascinating main topic of your interview is what are the differences of 4 generations of practicing ophthalmologists? And I would say 2 key differences, and social media is one of them. One, what do the older guys, older ladies, the older ophthalmologists that really truly holding precious and young doctors should learn? That's, in my opinion, is the patient-centric, at the end of the day, how patient feels truly matters. Their point of view. I think young doctors can learn so much from the older doctors. But on the other hand, there's so much the older doctors, such as me, can learn from the younger doctors in this 4-generation span. That is the understanding that what drives modern society is the fundamental concept called immediacy. And that basically is the fundamental reason why Uber, Facebook, and Google become so explosively successful, because it offers something that all of us human beings really need deep in our heart, which is immediacy. We want something at the time we want, in the shape we want, the type of information we want, at the format we want. So digital fundamentally provide that. I would say we've been dabbling on social media, consulted by folks such as you and the VCC Vision Care and many different organizations that really knows the space really well. But at the same time, we realize there's so much more to learn, especially as an older doctor in this 4-generation span. Now I need to learn from the young doctors more about the digital, because digital is the future.
You recently chose a partner for your practice after many, many, many years of solo practice. So, what would you say to the young generation coming out about choosing a partner in their practice if they choose to go solo or joining a practice? What advice would you give them to look for so they can have the happiness and the success that you've been able to have in your career?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to have recruited Dr. Joshua Franco to be my junior partner, and he's doing wonderfully well. He's actually already doing a majority of our surgeries and offer excellent surgical care for our patients and medical care. And what I learned, in fact, it was not easy. It took us a 3-year process, interview over dozens of the candidates. And we were looking for, at the end of the day, is this fundamental, to me, is the fundamental focus on patients. That, because technology comes and go, people comes and go, but the fundamental essence of medicine, which is a patient-centric approach, that remain unchanged. And that's what's defined Wang Vision Institute here in Nashville, Tennessee. And that was what I was looking for in all these dozen or so candidates that we interviewed. And finally, we met Dr. Joshua Franco, and I felt that there was this connection, that the patient-centric focus, that he shared that fundamental philosophy. So so we're very fortunate, and we built a great team together now based on patient-centric focus. Now, then once again, you said, Dr. Wang, this sounds like a theoretical, philosophical viewpoint. No, it manifests in actually what you do every day for me and Dr. Franco. For example, as I said, at the end of the day, it's not what you feel is most important. It's not what you think is most important as a doctor. It's how the patient feels is most important. Give one example. The doctor will walk into the room and say, "Hey, Mr. Smith, good to see you. I have all the time in the world. Just tell me what your problem is." But the doctor standing there the entire time. That body language tells the patient, "No, I really don't have time for you. I'm ready to get out." So it's those focus, the body language, the emotion, the connection. Actually, I learned a lot from ballroom dancing, because you cannot be a good ballroom dancer unless you can connect to your partner. So my advice to the surgeons who are out there looking for partners in the future is find someone who can fundamentally on the same wavelength as you. As for us, the most important for your practice, for us, the most important practice for the practice is a patient-centric approach.
I love that. That's great advice. We're going to finish now, and I have one question that I've asked every interviewee that I've talked to. How have you seen technology in ophthalmology transition since your career started, and what do you foresee technology in the future in our industry in the next 15 years?
My answer to this question will be somewhat unexpected and against the trend. Great question.
Nothing less.
That most people answer your excellent question here will be saying that in my career, I've seen a more technicalization, more computerization, more mechanization, more automation of technology, and that's probably. Well, I do agree the formality of what we do in terms of the actual tools we're going. However, what I see in my career is a a trend that unless we recognize it, intentionally correct it, it's going to take us away further and further from the core of medicine, which is patient-centric. Because all these technologies we have had in the past few decades has acted as an insulator, as a spacer, as a separator, separating the surgeon, the doctor from patient. We are feeling patient less. We are talking to patients less. We're spending less time with the patient. We're spending less time to figure how can I speak in the language of the listener, not the language of the speaker. How can I recognize the patient may not have as much knowledge, medical knowledge as we do, but they have just as much common sense as a human being. So I think the technology is driving us away from patients, and we need to intentionally recognize this hidden trend and really intentionally correct that. And as I mentioned very quickly, this is regarding common ground seeking that I've been working on. We're about to be publishing Common Ground Bible Studies, which is a collection of methodologies how to see common ground as doctors with our patients.
I love that. That's a great answer too. Thank you so much. I knew your answer would be unique, and I appreciate it so
Thank
very.
you.
Dr. Ming Wang, thank you so much for joining us today. We have so appreciated your insight and your entertainment, and we look forward to everyone else being able to enjoy this.
Thank you, Polly, for the opportunity to be on your show.